This is a Going Back, Remembering UGA interview session with Jack Davis, and to quote the Atlanta Weekly magazine, one of the country's most prolific, popular, accomplished, and successful artists. Today, March 24th, 2012, we are gathered at the Hilltop Grill in Athens, Georgia. And with us today, Alice Vernon of the Going Back crew and our stalwart videographer, Bill Evelyn. And I'm Fran Lane. Thanks, Jack, for visiting with us today and for getting us invited to the Hilltop Grill, your favorite eating place in Athens.
That's my son-in-law.
Absolutely, you have connections.
And I'm an old man. I'm 87. I've been around a long time.
Well, you don't strike us as an old man. So, but let's start at the beginning. Were you born with a pen in your hand?
I think so. I don't know. I really wasn't, but I think I started drawing in kindergarten. Mom used to walk me to the school at 10th Street in Atlanta. And one day we passed a bunch of chain gang people working, and they all had the stripes on that they don't have now. But I saw that, and I got to the kindergarten, and crayons and paper in front of me, and I drew them. And my mom thought it was great, fantastic that I could do that, and from then on she's encouraged me to draw. So
You're
I've drawn. That's all I'm doing. I'm not a good student. Well, the problem is, I don't want anybody to see that. But I went to Georgia on the GI Bill, and I couldn't have done that if my mom and dad couldn't afford to send me to college, but the Navy did.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I know I saw one fact about you was that you didn't sell, but you had published in the Georgia Tech Humor magazine at
Well, way back, my aunt married a professor at Georgia Tech in biology, and he was a good man and great. He got me interested in football, you know, promoting football maybe. But the Yellow Jacket, he had some students who were, you know, worked with the magazine, and I got some drawings. I copied some drawings for the Yellow Jacket, you know, magazine and printed. I think it was just because I was a nephew, his nephew.
I don't believe that it was just because you were a nephew.
But I had traced Jane Arden. Nobody knows about her, but that used to be a Sunday page, and of course there was a girl in her underwear, and that was what the Yellow Jacket was, kind of a risque magazine.
At age 11 or 12, was that?
I think so.
I think that's
I can't remember.
advanced. How early did you know that you wanted to be an artist as your life's work?
Well, my mom and dad, I think they didn't push me, but they encouraged me. And I have no brothers or sisters. And I just encouraged. They said everything I did was good. And spoiled brat, I guess. And I did high school or I think in grammar school at E. Rivers in Atlanta. I rendered an apple, and I won a prize for that. I won a bushel of apples, and I got to take it around to all the grades. And then I started drawing, you know, posters for anything coming up, you know, that academically or anything.
So you had this wonderful talent, and you got wonderful support at
home.
Well,
you know, you work at it, and you work at it, and if you look at this book that's just out on me, you will see how I've progressed from Tip Top Comics to Time Magazine.
Who were some of your greatest artistic influences?
Well, we lived at 2840 Peachtree Road. It's still there, and in the apartments. And we would get the Sunday paper, and that was beautiful. I mean, the comic section was just full of great big pages, and I would take that and put it out on the floor and lie down and look at all of the drawings and cartoons in it, and it inspired me. It really did. Maggie and Jiggs on the front page, beautifully drawn, very tight. And then you turn the page, and there was Alex Raymond, who drew Flash Gordon and Jungle Jim and Secret Agent X9, all three at the same time. He did them, and then on the following page was a full page of Prince Valiant, drawn by Harold Foster, who's one of my idols, and he's deceased, of course, now. And he sent me a full page. I sent him a fan letter, and he sent me an original full page of one of the early Prince Valiant, and that was a big thrill. That encouraged me to keep drawing.
Everybody saw your talent, I think, and were obviously very supportive.
Well, they were, everybody. And nobody else could draw, I guess. I don't know. I did.
You went to North Fulton High School.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Went to North Fulton High School and worked on the newspaper and the yearbook, drew for those.
Right, yeah. And I think I would had a job with the fellow who put together high school annuals in Atlanta, and I would go and help him or work with him, and he taught me how to use a brush, to draw with a brush, fine point or real thick, and that was a big help. But we put out a paper in school, and one thing led to another. I just enjoyed doing it.
Right, just building on what you had. After high school, it was the midst of the Second World War.
And I have always loved sports, and I was captain of the basketball team. And the worst year we ever had, I think in one half we played. We didn't even score a bucket, but I did run track, and that was my last year at North Fulton in '43, and I got a lot of points, with the ran 100-yard dash and the 220 and the relays and high jump.
So you were multi-talented. Not only were you an artist, but you were an athlete.
I don't, for some reason, I don't know whether it was one of the teachers liked me or whatever, but I was most versatile. Voted most versatile in 1943. And that's an honor.
I think you're most modest, too.
But I knew I was going to be drafted. I was scared to death.
So you went into the service in '43.
Ma'am. Right.
And you ended up in the Navy.
Right, because it was clean. I got a little taste of Fort McPherson out in Atlanta, where you had to pick up cigarette butts, and I don't smoke. I never have smoked. I've never had a cigarette in my mouth. But anyway, that's I've kind of grown. I chose the Navy. Went
into the Navy and
I went to Pensacola, and I stayed there for a while, and then shipped out of Pensacola to Norfolk, and they dropped the bomb over in Japan, and then I took a troop train over across the states and never been anywhere, and went out to San Francisco, and we were next to a prison camp, a Japanese prison camp, and we shipped out of there. Alcatraz was the last thing we saw, and a lot of things happened. The ship got seasick. Everybody got seasick, and we finally got to Hawaii and straightened out, and we had a softball game and went on to Guam. That's where I was stationed for 9 months, and I got to go to Shanghai and Saipan, Tinian, all these places that the students don't know anything about.
Their names are not even the same, are they?
And Shanghai was by myself. It was great. I had leave coming to me, so I decided to take it in Shanghai.
Wow.
Way back.
You also drew some while you were in
I drew a comic character called Boondocker, and boondocks were the jungles, and the people that in they called them, well, but anyway, I did a strip, one panel of a sailor, and it was kind of take after Sad Sack.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had an offer to stay in California when when my duty was up, and I said, "No, I want to go back to Atlanta.
Go home.
Go home." And I did. I want to see my mom and dad.
Right. Well, now you got back, and that's when you decided to come to the
And
university.
then my dad took what I had drawn on Guam, Boondocker, over to Dean Tate Drury, and he gave me I got in over at Georgia, and became an SAE fraternity. Loved it. Everything is just complete opposite of being in the Navy.
Right.
And it was just it was great being here, and some of my fraternity brothers were football players, and it was a different life, and that's it.
I read that there were some murals on the walls at the SAE.
Well, they gave free rent in the fraternity house for people who decorate their room the nicest. And of course, I started drawing on the walls, and I got the president, and who my son-in-law's father was the president of the SAE.
Is that right?
Yeah, Georgia Beta.
Small world, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love the house. I love the house mother, and we had Doc Banks, who was just the greatest. He would pick up your laundry and everything, and he could furnish booze. You didn't have a liquor store, around in Athens, and Doc Banks always had something in the basement at the SAE house.
It was
strike that, leave it in. I don't know.
You lived at the SAE house?
Yes, I did.
On Pulaski Street?
Do what?
On Pulaski Street, right?
Yes.
That beautiful old...
Don't let your friends go. Theta, the dying mother said, don't let them be a darn cop. I'd rather see them dead. Send them down to Pulaski Street. The boys down there best. Put a cigar for pin on him. To hell with all the rest.
That's great.
No.
Now see, you sing too. You're an athlete,
Yeah.
you're an artist. And
I can sing. I love music. I love to draw. And when I draw at the drawing board, I usually get in the mood by listening to music, jazz, country stuff.
Your major, you were in the journalism school.
Well, I started off in journalism, and I wasn't good at hunt and peck with the typewriter, and I just wasn't a very good student. So then of course, I took art courses with Lamar Dodd, and they saw that I could draw, but I wasn't a very good academic student. But they let me take courses over, and it was a big help. And Lamar Dodd, I liked him so much. He was we called him Almighty Dodd. He'd walk around with a pipe, and they'd look at your work and they'd tell you it was good or bad, and it was good. And we had I went over yesterday to the Jack Davis lecture, and the art school is unbelievable. The buildings I've lost, I couldn't find my way around. What they have done. And when I was over here, we had Quonset huts, and had a teacher that we drew on. Just real great times, good times.
So good thoughts about the university. You also worked on the Red and Black, the newspaper.
Well, I would do a cartoon for them.
And the Pandora Yearbook.
I think I did. Pretty sure.
And then the Georgia Cracker magazine. Did you work with the Georgia?
Yeah, I just started, working, and again, we put on off-campus magazine of bullshit.
Right.
and it had ads in it, local ads. It's in this book that has come out, all of the ads that I did locally around here. And it's way back, way back.
What fun. You did 2 issues, is that right? That's what
I think we did about 2 or 3, and we made so much money we didn't know what to do with it, so we quit.
Well, did I hear that the SAE pledges, you had them selling it on the corner?
They would go up on campus or off campus and stand on a corner somewhere and sell it for 10 or 15 cents, I think. I don't know.
What?
And we got funny jokes from Parts magazine, Parts Pup. There was an automobile magazine over in Atlanta. We would cut it out and paste it in and print it offset, and it was, you know, kind of risque jokes, but today clean.
Talk about how Al Cap and Little Abner affected your life.
Well, they really didn't. Little Abner was from the South, and you know, and more big brogans, and of course Al Cap could draw, and he was very funny. But most of all, the influence me was Harold Foster and Popeye and Walt Disney. Yes. You know, the Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck.
Well, I was thinking about the Lena the hyena incident. Can
now
you talk
that was a contest that they had, the Journal had, I think, and this Basil Wolverton won it, and I just won it for the state, I think. Ugly face. I don't know why, but I'm always good at drawing ugly people.
Well, was Lena a character in the Little Abner series that never...
you never saw her face.
Never saw her face, and so that...
So ugly.
And so you won the Georgia representation of Ugly Lena.
The state of Georgia. Mm.
How about Ed Dodd's influence?
Well, now, again, my mother knew some friends that knew friends of Ed Dodd, and he lived on the other side of Atlanta, and he needed somebody to do backgrounds or fill in for him, ink for him, and so I would ride a streetcar all the way over to his house and work with him, and that was something else. That was comic strip, and Mark Trail was unbelievable. It was good. And Ed Dodd did a panel way back about Down Home or something like that. And he was a good man, a great man. But he said, Jack, you ought to go to New York. And I didn't want to go. I wanted to draw Mark Trail the rest of my life. And he said, go to New York. So I went to New York on what I had left of the GI Bill at the Art Students League in New York. And there's a McNulty was an art teacher, and he never showed up. I'd go at night and look for work during the day, and I'd go to all of the agencies, advertising agencies, syndicates. Strip, I had a portfolio stolen.
Oh.
And they'd say, leave your portfolio and pick it up next week. I said, I can't do that. I gotta find work, you know, now. And it's quite an experience. I had my automobile stolen.
Oh, gosh.
And they found it up in Buffalo, New York, and I had to go up by myself and pick it up. They'd stripped it, and cost me more to keep the car in New York than it did for me to rent a room. And I first went, and my mom made a reservation in New York at the Sloan House, a YMCA, and I stayed there one night. And I got the New York Times and looked at all of the apartments or rooms for rent, and you know, I got subsistence from the government, enough to pay for the rent, and to get my car back home, sell it. And I was thinking about getting married, you know, then too. I had to go.
And she was in Georgia, and you were in New York.
Yes, she was a freshman, and I was a freshman. I was on the GI Bill, and she was, you know, I'm about 4 years older than she is.
So it was hard to be apart.
Yeah.
Tell the story about...
You had to go on the telephone, you know, pick up a telephone to get quarters and go and drop them in the slot machine and talk to her.
Tell the story about the ring.
The who?
The ring.
Oh, the ring.
The diamond ring.
Oh, there was some friends of Mom's that they sent me some tickets to some Broadway plays. I got to see The King and I and the Detective Story and South Pacific and all of that. And I would come out of the theater, you know, at Times Square, and then I'd get on the subway and go home. And I'd wear these brogans like little Abner, I guess, and somebody spotted me. And he said, I've got a ring. You want? It's a man's ring, male ring, that I was in the Astra Hotel, the washroom, and I picked it up, and I've got to get out of town, and I've got to get rid of this ring. And I said, I don't have any money, and then, I don't know that it's really a diamond. And he took me over to the side of a window, and it took glass will cut glass, so he made a big cut, and that's a diamond. And he said, how much money have you got? And I said, $35. And I gave it to him. And I walked home backward. I stayed up all night looking at it, and it wasn't worth $1. I went to the art school, the Art Students League, and all of my buddies, they looked like dead-end kids. They were there on GI Bills just to see the models, I think. And they wanted to go down to Times Square and find this guy. Yeah, and I said, no, please don't, don't do that. So that was a story.
So, Southern boy in New York City, in the Big Apple.
I had a suit made before I went to New York, tailor-made, blue, shiny blue. I had wingtip cordovans. I still have ingrowing toenails from walking up and down Madison Avenue, you know, going to different places to see if I could get work. And I finally went down to EC Comics, and they were way down on Lafayette Street, Little Italy. And they were publishing horrible magazines, you know, horror stories. And they saw my work, and it was horrible. And I got work right away. And that was money. And then I started thinking about getting married, you know.
So things worked out.
Yeah, they worked out.
And EC, was that Mr. Bill?
That was all of, you know, the war comic books, and I enjoyed drawing them, and they had a lot of westerns. I've always wanted to be a cowboy, and I never have been. And I draw them.
Well, one of the quotes I read said that you were the nicest man and could draw the ugliest folks.
How do you explain that? I don't know.
Warts with hair growing out of them, mangy.
Yeah, but I remember when I was little, you used to listen to the radio a lot, and you would imagine things. And I remember there used to be a kind of a horror show that'd come on late at night, Lights Out. It was the name of it. And all the kids in the apartment would all get together and turn the lights out, and this radio would come on and tell these horror stories, and I guess that was big. And about that time, you know, Frankenstein, the monster came out. Oh God, I love that. I mean, it scared me to death, but I still loved it. And one thing led to another.
That brings up Bill Evelyn here. It's really our artist and our creative guy. And one of the questions that he wanted me to ask you was your process. What is it that generates this?
Well, I don't know. It's the only thing I can do. I always kid people. I can't read or write. All I do is draw, and I enjoy it. I enjoy drawing, and I really do. It's not work. It's fun, and I think with kids, like saw kids over there the other day at the art studio, they've got to enjoy it. They've got to work hard and have a lot of faith in themselves. And that's what, you know, I've had that. I have no brothers or sisters, and I've kind of been a loner, and I've got some good friends.
Wonderful support through the years. I have 5 or 6 things here that are related to New York City. Talk about the Saint.
Well, now, the Herald Tribune posted an ad at the Art Students League on the bulletin board by Mike Roy, who drew Leslie Charter's The Saint. And I did the backgrounds like I did for Mark Trail had done. And it was exciting. And he would, he paid me $100 a week. And that was great, it was good money.
Big money.
It was then, no inflation or anything. And from there, the Herald Tribune folded, and I was out on the street again, looking for work. And that's when I went down to EC Comics.
Talk about EC Comics, Tales from the Crypt.
Horrible. Really bad. And I just didn't enjoy doing it, but I did it. We had a little apartment in Scarsdale after we were married, and a drawing board fixed up in the living room where we lived, in a little efficiency apartment. And I would draw, and they'd give me a check right away. And when I'd bring work in, I'd pick up a story. And that just kept going and kept going. I kept getting faster and faster because they paid me every time I came in. And then it was just a great relationship between publisher and myself.
Was that Mr. Gaines? Was that Bill Gaines?
Yeah, Bill Gaines, a great man. He weighed about 300 pounds. And it was a giving man. It was really great. And one time went over to Coney Island. He took us all over to Coney Island, the artist and everything, and went up in one of those parachutes. And I rode with him up, got up at the top, and there's a free fall. And I was sitting beside him, and he weighs 300 pounds. And I tell you, my heart went up in my throat.
What Mr. Gaines, was Mr. Gaines the...
He was a publisher.
And he was the kernel, or I mean the impetus behind Mad Magazine?
Right, he had editors. He had two editors. One was Harvey Kurtzman, and one was Al Feldstein. Two fine Jewish boys, and really were very successful in what they did. And they were the boss, and I would draw whatever they wanted.
And you were one of the founding cartoonists of Mad Magazine,
yes.
Is that right?
There were about 3 of us.
And that was 50?
There was Johnny Severn, Wally Wood, and myself, and that's it, and Harvey Kurtzman.
What a historic...
Then they had trouble with Harvey Kurtzman and the publisher, Bill Gaines, and again we were out on our own. We went with Hugh Hefner, with Playboy, and they failed. And so a lot of things I touched failed, and then finally advertising caught on. And most of the art directors were Mad fans or comic book fans. And I got work from RCA Records, and got from Gene Shalit, who NBC was very instrumental in helping me. And everything fell into place from then on. And I, cleaned up my work a little, and it caught on.
Well,
record covers.
Right. Again, what I read was that you worked fast and you worked well.
Again, like I said, I'd go in and I'd get paid, and then finally I got a rep, and I never thought I'd need a rep, but you do need a rep. I tell the kids that they should get a good rep who can get them work that I can't get. They would do the billing that I can't do the billing. I wouldn't know how much to pay them. And so that helped out very much with Cullen and Gerald Rapp, representatives, art representatives. And today they're still, I still do work for them when I can. I'm 87, and I don't turn out like I used to.
We don't want you to retire. We don't want you to retire. Talk about It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Well, that again, it was a movie poster, and people had seen Mad Magazine, and I got a call from United Artists. I didn't have a rep then, and I went into Times Square. They've got an office. United Artists had an office there, right at Times Square. I went up the elevator, the big office, and they said, "How about doing a poster for this movie?" Man, I said, "Oh God, it'd be great." I think they paid about $300, and that was a lot then. And they liked it, so I did it in a black and white for the newspapers. And my mom and dad came up to visit me one time, and I think my dad had Parkinson's disease finally. And he came out on Broadway and saw him he loved the Rockettes. and he saw a great big billboard with the Mad, Mad World on there, and it was a big thrill.
How great. Oh, that's great. So much of, as I look at all the things you've done magazine covers, film posters, record album covers, book.
Well, 87 years, that's a long time.
But
So
book covers, did Louis Grizzard, some of Louis Grizzard's
Oh
stuff.
God, he's the greatest. Excuse me, I shouldn't say. But he was so great, and Louis would come down to St. Simon's and play golf, and he would play with what's his name? I've forgotten now. Has a barbecue stand out the highway.
Bob Poss.
Bob Poss. And
what a character.
He and Bob Poss would go head to head and play golf, and I would go with Louis Grizzard's girlfriend, you know, behind them, play. And they'd play for money and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not a good golfer, but I enjoy it. And all of my friends are good golfers, and they come down, Joy from Georgia.
Well, now you before you left New York, what was it? Just time to come home? Is that what you?
Oh yeah. I always wanted to live down south, and I wanted to live at Sea Island. And I saw this property on St. Simon's, the north end of St. Simon's, and St. Simon's is the length of Manhattan, and we're right on the tip end of the island. And my son is the architect, built the house. That was his first house that we're in now, and on the river, and I love it. It's beautiful. Can't wait to go home.
I understand.
I love Athens, but I'm ready to go home.
I hear you, absolutely.
My son, I'm very proud of. He's an architect in Atlanta, and he has his own office, right near where I went to grammar school, Lee Rivers, down Peachtree Creek, and his wife has a gift shop beneath him, where she is very talented in decorating and for weddings and things like that. And then my daughter, who is the sweetest, greatest thing in the world, she lives in Athens with Chris, and I have two granddaughters, one in New York, and one came back from New York and is in Atlanta now, sort of looking for work. And it's just, everything has fallen into place. Everything is good.
Talk about, you've done all these things. How did you reconnect with your alma mater? How did you get involved starting to draw the Bulldogs?
Well, it was just getting out of the Navy, and then I had 4 years coming to me, the GI Bill. So you take advantage of it. And what's the best school? I couldn't go to Georgia Tech. It's an engineering school. I'm not a brain, you know. So at Georgia, you have fun. And there were plenty of girls.
So,
and it just is a different life. And I became a big football fan because Mike Cooley was a star football player with Trippy. He was a center for Trippy. And he went to North Fulton at high school and was, you know, a big star there. He didn't go into service because I think he was probably like Sequich, flat-footed, or disability, whatever. But anyway, I got attached to football players in Georgia. Loved Georgia. I used to love Tech because I had uncles that taught at Tech. And I used to know some football players over at Tech.
So you're
I had a workers' pass. I'd go to the games with a workers' pass. My uncle would get me a workers' pass. I didn't have a seat. I had to sit in the aisle, but they never had a crowd.
Not at Tech, huh?
Not at Tech.
So you have been a Bulldog fan since
Right.
for 60 years, right?
Yeah.
Now talk about how back in the 70s, did Lauren Smith come and talk to you about?
Well, I met Lauren Lauren and his wife, Myrna. I did some billboard posters for him, and I don't know how it really came about. But Lauren and I are good friends, and he has helped me a lot with the connection with the athletic department, and that was real good. I've met Mark Rick, fantastic
Good
person.
man, huh?
Yeah, good man.
So you started back in maybe the mid-70s,
Right.
sort of reconnecting here, and I think I saw
I've forgotten how many posters I've done. I know one thing that's very nice, that Mark Rick framed all of my posters and put in the waiting room in his office.
Isn't that great?
It is. That's what I get a kick out of.
Seeing yourself on the wall.
Oh man, I tell you, and again to go to football games, to sit in a crowd and see a cover that you've done.
Right.
I love that, and that's egotistical, I guess.
No, that's
but
great.
But oh man, I love that, and I've had some good times. Bill Gaines, again, the Mad publisher, took all of the artists on trips around the world. I've been to Bangkok, Thailand, been to North America, Dutch Ghana. I've been to Italy, I've been to Rome, up Sicily, and all over. But it was through a bonus as from Bill Gaines. And fought a bull in Mexico, a baby bull.
Fought a bull.
Yeah. Sergio, one of the artists, is a Mexican, and he took us out to a place where matadors worked out with the bulls, and you had lunch, and you had margaritas, and so they asked for volunteers to fight the bull, and so about 5 of us went down into the bottom of the arena, and there was a altar where you said a prayer before you go out. It was a place to sign away your life. And then the matador came in with an assistant, and it had a leather chaps. It gave us all leather chaps to wear and a sombrero, and told us, he said, now when you get out there and the bull comes at you, you hold the people, but don't move it, because he's going to charge that cape. And so he gave us all leather capes. And we marched out to music, Spanish music, Mexican music. And who did they choose? Because I guess I'm the tallest, the ugliest. It was me first. And the matador walked out to me and he says, now you get down on your knees. So I got down on my knees and he said, you didn't tell me that, to hold the cape out. And I held the cape out, and sure enough, behind the gate, I could see the hoofs pawing the dirt. And the gates flew open, and out came a baby bull. It was first a donkey. A donkey came out first, and then a baby bull came out. And the baby bull bellowed up, and tucked his head, and boy, he charged at me, and I moved the cape, and if he'd had horns, I would have been gored.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. But anyway, that was a lot of stories.
You do have a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I think for us, I think I speak for all of us, having grown up with Mad Magazine,
well,
and then watching you show up on all the University of Georgia plastic cups and covers, and that's,
it was a lot of fun. And like last night, there was so many people from the art department that you feel like it's family. I know all of them, and the teachers, they've been so good to me.
Well, they're proud to call you their own. They're proud to call you a part of the University of Georgia family.
And, my son-in-law at this restaurant last night, he had everybody come here to eat.
And they're proud that you're kin to somebody that's going to invite them to dinner, maybe. Let me ask you a couple of other things, Jack. You talked about playing music when you work.
Well, I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't play any musical instrument, but I love music. I love to listen to it, and I love jazz, and I love country music.
Do you sequester yourself when you work?
And when I'm at the drawing board, usually I'll turn on a tape or country music or something like that. But when I first went to New York, they didn't have all that. I couldn't do that, and I would listen to the radio, and Mickey Mantle was coming out, so I got interested in sports again with Mickey Mantle. And I used to go to Times Square to watch the boxing, and you know, when TV first came out, black and white, and Jack Dempsey had a restaurant, and I got to shake his hand, and he was always there in his bar at Times Square, and then when the truck drivers would come up there and they'd go to have a beer or something like that, I'd say, "There's Jack Dempsey," and they'd go over and shake his hand, and it was great. Some good memories. You couldn't do that now.
Talk a little bit about some of your projects. What was the most difficult thing you ever had to do?
Well, usually if I get an assignment that's kind of domestic, I'm not very good at drawing beautiful women, or I've drawn some sexy women, but ads that are household or something like that, I don't care for. And my rep knows that. My rep knows what kind of work that I like to do best. And I just did a thing for the Super Bowl for the Chili Hot Peppers, a music group. I never know them, never heard of them, never seen them, but everybody else has. And they sent me some pictures, and all of these guys change their outfits all the time, and I know I can't have to draw the equipment that they work, you know, the guitars and all that bit. I couldn't do, but I finally did it. And I had my wife and I drove over to Brunswick to one of the supermarkets to get a good picture of them, to see what they're really like, and they didn't have. So that's about the last thing I've done for my rep.
What was your favorite project?
Time magazine. That was exciting. That was, and I didn't have a rep then. I did that on my own, and usually the art director was a mad fan, and they would call me up, and I would go in, and they would tell me the subject, and I'd take a 2B pencil, and it had a little red tablet, red border, with a tablet with time up at the top, and I would sit in a room by myself and make sketches of what the cover might be, what they say that it's going to be. And then they'd take it into the editor, and the editor would say, "Great, go with this." Then I would take it home. I had a little MG that I bought, and I'd fly back out to Westchester to get up to my apartment, or wherever the house, finally got a house, and do the cover overnight, and take it in, and I'd take in my watercolor box and an electric eraser in case they wanted to, you know, I'd fix a mistake or something, or make it better. And it'd come out the next week. I mean, you know, that weekend it's gone, and then it'd come out Monday, be on the newsstand.
All over the country.
And that was a thrill.
All over the world.
I've worked with some good people. I mean, they're really talented.
You're the most modest person I have ever met.
Oh, no. And I love my computer. I get on that and I don't know a thing about it.
Okay.
And I think all the artwork now, you've got students coming along now have got to be computer experts.
So your favorite project was Time magazine. Is that what you're most proud of,
Yes,
Jack?
ma'am.
Have you ever experienced
with Ford,
Gerald Ford.
President Ford, and he sent me a letter.
Is that right? Yeah. How wonderful!
And you know, I've got stuff from Joe DiMaggio, you know, stuff like, and that's a thrill.
What a thrill!
Just like, you know, Harold Foster sent me a page of Prince Valiant when I was a little kid. Well, not a kid, but I was about 14. 15.
Well, just throughout your life, other people recognize your talent, and you have gotten such wonderful support.
I have. God has been good to me.
Blessed.
I've been blessed. People say I'm lucky. I've been blessed.
I think you're talented. Maybe a little luck too sometime. Jack, have you ever experienced artist block?
Do what?
Have you ever experienced artist block where you just could not come up with something that
I have, and I had an assignment with one of the oil companies to put out a pamphlet. And it was really Deadsville. And I couldn't think of an idea to save my life. And when I went to bed at night and I thought about it, and I thought about a character, associated with the copy in it, and I did it, and it went over. Great. But it was just, I didn't know what to do.
But you came through.
But I did it, yeah.
Well, we could talk all day long about your accomplishments. I looked at the list of your clients. It's everybody from AT&T to Warner Brothers, ESPN, Ford.
I've done a lot.
Postal Service. Talk about.
I've been lucky, but there are so many people out there that are talented. And when you go to your computer and all of a sudden now I'm looking up all of the old illustrators, Albert Dorn, who I've always loved, and I'm nothing compared to them. I've just turned out a lot of junk.
I don't think any of us would agree with you.
People have been interested in it. That's the truth.
Talk about being asked to do a stamp for the U.S. Postal Service.
Well, that came through my rep, and it came through one of the artists that worked for my rep. He'd done some stamps, and they did one stamp. That was enough, no more. But I had done some advertisement for the Postal Service.
So you had a connection?
Yeah, through my rep. That's why my rep comes in. I could never get a job like that.
I looked at all, I cannot tell you how much fun it was doing research on you and all the different things that you've done.
You've got nothing else to do.
And the awards and the honors that you've received, you were...
Well, one of my achievements that I forgot about is the Society of Illustrators in New York. They gave me a Lifetime Award. Unbelievable Achievement Award.
Well,
and that's with Norman Rockwell and all these great illustrators. And that's one of my high watermarks.
Right, and well, you deserved it.
Well, I don't know. Turned out a lot of stuff.
Comic Book Hall of Fame in 2003.
Well, a lot of things.
The National Cartoonist Society, the Milton Caniff Lifetime Achievement Award in 1996.
They got no taste.
And I'm giving you the Fran Lane Modesty Award. I am not modest, but you are.
I appreciate that, Fran and Alice.
Well,
and the man behind the camera, I forgot his name.
Bill.
I'm getting old. I forget a lot of things.
Well,
I go in another room and forget what I'm going out for.
We all do that. Let me just say in closing that with all your achievements and all your accomplishments and the kind of person that you are, you've certainly brought honor to your alma mater.
Well, thank you.
And we are so proud that you're one of us. Thank you, Jack.
I appreciate it.